Before we leap into the webinar, just a quick introduction about Sustainability to Action. We are the hosts of this webinar. We are a consultancy company. We started this webinar series because we're keen to share our knowledge and to promote sustainability concepts in the region. We're very keen that these methodologies and that sustainability is actually taken on board more widely and more swiftly and quickly in the region. Some of the services that we provide as Sustainability to Action: we are specialists in reporting for sustainability. We help with sustainability communications. We can support your organizations with strategic approach to sustainability, materiality, stakeholder engagements, etc. We very much hope that you'll be able to work with us in the future, and we want to hear from you. You can visit our website, which is www.sustainabilitytoaction.com, and get in touch with us. We look forward to hearing from you. So in terms of an introduction to the topic of sustainability, and transforming business with design thinking, we welcome you to this webinar series. And as I said earlier, we welcome your interaction with us. So, when we look at transforming business with design thinking, really sustainability by its nature looks at how we can innovate and how we can engage more people, understand what the challenges are, and through those sessions and workshops, looking at how innovation can transform the way we do business. Just over half of the world's population, which is 54% of the world population, so 54% of 7.3 billion people who live on Earth actually live in urban areas. They live in cities. And that proportion is expected to increase to 66% by the year 2050. And the population is growing. So with that population growth, we are facing increased amounts of waste, and if not managed well, this can have significant consequences and can produce serious environmental, health, and economic problems. We waste and discard way too much, and that's because we consume too much. So what we need to look at is how the products are manufactured and how currently, in the vast majority of operations, the manufacturing process does not allow for their best reuse, recycle, or even efficiency at the beginning of the process. So what we need to look at is how do we, and this webinar will help us understand, gain more insights on how through design and innovation we can become more efficient. And it's necessary to control both ends, not just the disposal end at the end of the life cycle of a product, but actually looking at it from the beginning and from the production and from the resource extraction point of view. According to Armin Reller from the University of Augsburg and Tom Gradle from Yale University, if we continue with the average global usage rate of metals and other materials, such as aluminium, copper, nickel, and phosphorus, those are manufactured into products that we use daily. These resources, if we continue as we are today, will only last for another 58 years. So something really does need to change. So sustainability has proven to be a source of innovation, and I suppose this is the way forward, and that's what we're suggesting to our attendees. This way you can reduce your consumption, increase your revenue, you can save a lot of money, and sustainability, if you approach it correctly, can help you reduce your risks as a business. So innovation, design, the fourth industrial revolution, and the sustainable development goals. In this context, innovation plays an important role. It's necessary to innovate in the design of new materials and products, looking at global value chains, networks of reverse logistics, and business models in which, for example, companies no longer sell products but potentially sell services. Innovation can help to combine economic development with environmental protection and the efficient use of existing available resources. Looking at it from the context of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, where much of the role of commitment lies in the private sector, companies see innovation as a stimulus for equitable economic growth, efficiency, and an opportunity to face social and environmental sustainability challenges that are all aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals. And while we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, we've included a lovely little graphic there that shows the first, second, third, and now fourth industrial revolution. We have to consider the resources that we need and the materials on which this technology is built. If we want to fully reach a fourth industrial revolution, we need to redesign our world. And this requires reflection about issues ranging from industrial policy to investment criteria to new business models. So this brings us to an interesting video, which we were very happy to share with you. We hope you'll enjoy it as much as we do, and we're about to start.
Waste is simply a resource in the wrong place, and that's our mentality. We really are looking all around us to see where there's waste.
Veolia have reimagined waste, something that people used to throw away, bad for the environment, bad economically as well.
We had people who came up with ideas, for instance, to mine the heat from landfills rather than just having a straightforward water treatment facility. We want to produce biogas. Or if we have ash, we're looking to see can we use some of that ash to put into some of our fertilisers. A heating source from an industrial facility can possibly be used by the local school.
And Veolia have challenged themselves, their clients, potential clients, to think about waste as a revenue opportunity.
Rather than pushing out our traditional solutions, we've gone and listened, and that has brought us to different places with the customers, and we've co-designed solutions with the customers. So that co-designing has been a big step change for us. One of the biggest resources we have available to us is the 15,000 employees that we have working with us. And I would say as a leadership team, maybe in 2012 we had to look and come up with some ideas, and that now we're picking best ideas.
What we saw from them was this ability not just to transform their own organisation, but the very thinking about waste in the UK economy.
It's really nice to be able to turn to your kids, and I have 4, and say to them, I'm pretty sure that my working career, when I started it and when I'm finishing it, I'll have done positive impact to the planet.
We hope you enjoyed that. We certainly do every time we watch it. Okay, so really, in summation of this introduction to transforming business with design thinking, we really see sustainability as an end goal. It can help you run your business to infinity. That's the idea. It drives innovation. It transforms your organization. It gives you a fantastic competitive edge to other competitors who have not adopted this new design, new operating model, new opportunities. And companies that do integrate sustainability or do take on board sustainability, they understand that it is about building a future for their organization and their community. We would like to invite you to join us and follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, LinkedIn, on our website, on Facebook. By all means, reach out to us. We do want to work with you. And now I'm really delighted to introduce the highlight of our webinar, Dr. Nicholas Spencer from Northumbria University. Nick, I'll be handing over to you now.
Great. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for the really kind introduction, Sandra, and for the invitation, Sustainability to Action, to be part of this webinar today. I've not done a live webinar before, so I'm a little bit overwhelmed by all of this and talking to a microphone and a camera and not being able to interact with any of you, but let's see how this goes. So I want to start with a little game. So what am I? I'm conical in shape. I'm cold. You'll probably enjoy me on a hot day. You unwrap me at the top. I have chocolate balls on the top and a wafer cone and a chocolate core right down at the bottom. It's not quite the same, is it? Describing a cornetto and eating a cornetto, not quite the same thing. Design thinking's a little bit like that too. I'm going to try to describe it to you today and tell you about some of its characteristics and how it can be applied within businesses to help support transformation. But, you know, really, to understand it, you need to experience it, I guess, like many things in life. So I'll do my best, but oh, hold on, I think there's something not quite working. Okay, hopefully you can now see my my screen and hear me okay too. I was getting messages from Sandra telling me that that it wasn't all working, but hopefully it is now. So so what is this talk all about? You know, maybe it's about the transformational power of design thinking. You know, that makes me feel a little bit like a Victorian salesman selling some kind of potion. You know, because it makes it sound like design thinking is some sort of magic formula or magic potion, which it really isn't. You know, design thinking won't solve the world. Design thinking won't fix all of your business issues, but it can be a valuable tool. So, so maybe this talk really is about our approach to design thinking, you know, or design-led innovation, as we call it, which can be used to understand and position the value of change within and amongst organizations. So let's take it a step back. So what's design? You know, lots of people, when they think of design, think about products, they think about graphics, they think about visual aesthetics, but when I talk about design, really I'm talking about a way of doing things. You know, how we change the current situation into a preferred one. So, you know, whenever I talk on a topic, I go to the fountain of all knowledge to see how what I'm going to say stacks up against the accepted wisdom of the world. So, I looked at Wikipedia and put in design thinking, and they said some interesting things. They said design thinking is a formal method, I'm not quite sure about that, for practical, creative resolution of problems and creation of solutions with the intent of an improved future result. Okay, yeah, I'll go with that. In this regard, it is a form of solution-based or solution-focused thinking, starting with a goal, a better future situation, instead of solving a specific problem. By considering both present and future conditions and parameters of the problem, alternative solutions may be explored simultaneously. Well, thank you very much, Wikipedia. That's not too bad. So let's see if throughout this talk we can add a little bit more detail to some of that and go into a little bit more depth. And at its basics, action research and reflective practice are the components that underpin design thinking and design-led innovation. So, you know, the cycles of naming what you're going to pay attention to. So, what are the bits of the world, the situation, the economy, the business that you're going to look at, and how do you frame those? How do you pose the challenge, the question, the issue, and then how do you explore it? What tools and techniques and methods and capabilities do you use to explore that challenge, to move towards a solution? And do this rapidly, and rapidly evaluate and reflect on how that progress is going, so that you can change what you've named, rethink about how you framed it, and, you know, think about whether you're exploring it in the right way. So, you know, the reflective practice steps of naming, framing, moving, evaluating, or reflecting really underpin design thinking at its basics. So that sort of takes us to the question, you know, but design what? And who's doing the designing? And is transformation just a form of change, or is it different? We're constantly bombarded with buzzwords and terminology. We're told that the only consistent is change, and change is the new normal. And we're told about incremental innovation, radical innovation, disruptive innovation, and sometimes it can be really difficult to grasp what these things mean in our own personal settings, our own professional practice, our own organizations or businesses. So, sometimes when people come to us, what they're talking about when they think about innovation is new products, new services, new infrastructure. Maybe they're really talking about telling their consumer story differently, or talking to new consumers or new markets. But what we try to think about is, are we talking about shifting their fundamental value proposition? Their premise, the promise of value that their business transactions based upon. Are we talking about challenging and exploring elements of the business model? And maybe, actually, this is where we understand the difference between change and transformation. Change, doing something slightly different, doing something slightly more effective, efficient, better, but based on the same premise, the same business model, the same foundations. Or transformation, actually looking to explore the foundation upon which an operation is based. So that's what the talk's about today. It's about how design thinking might be used as a strategic tool to help explore the fundamentals of a business model, or transforming business, if you like. So that takes us to a poll question. The poll question is, have you come across design thinking in your professional practice? So over to Sandra to open up the poll question.
Okay, we're going to close the poll.
Which is great. So we've got 88% of you voted, and 71% of you said that you haven't come across design thinking in your organisation. So hopefully this talk will give you something to talk about with your colleagues and to think about within your professional practice. Who am I? My name's Nick, Nicholas Spencer formerly, I guess. I work at Northumbria University, which is in the northeast of England. I work within the design department. I was trained as an industrial designer. I'm an academic. My research and my colleagues are interested in responsible innovation practice and what that means, and the way that we undertake our work, the way that we teach, the way that we research is through practice-based collaborative research. So we explore these issues with organizations, with businesses, and everything that we do tends to be practically investigated. And then we try to understand what that means in terms of the theory, which is some of what I'll try to share with you today. And I thought I'd give 3 little, very short examples of the types of projects that we work on, and there are so many I could go into. Yes, we do occasionally look at products. Yes, we do occasionally look at material efficiency. But the 3 projects that I wanted to highlight to you are, one was a disability charity, where the challenge that they came to us was they wanted to understand how they could embed enterprise within their foundation. And at first for them that meant really launching a social enterprise that some of the disabled adults that are part of the foundation could work within. But what we've done is we've we've developed a model of enterprise that will work across the foundation at its very basics. So how do you establish an enterprising culture within the organization, and what value does that deliver to all of the people within the foundation? So the staff, the service users, the disabled adults or young people, the organization itself and its leadership team. And how do you shift an organization towards that vision? So, you know, for me, that project really is a good example of transformation, because it isn't a single step change from their current premise, their current operation. It fundamentally questions it. Previously, the organisation, Percy Headley Foundation, had a focus on care, and really what we asked them to do was to shift their focus to a focus on endeavour, while still delivering care, but to focus on endeavour and how that could give greater sense of purpose and responsibility to all of those within the organisation. Another example is a project that we're about to start called Fuse. Fuse, this particular project is based in the northeast of England, and it looks at the creative, digital and IT sector and the relationship that that sector has with other industry within the region and nationally. And our challenge really is to work with that sector and those potential partners for it to develop greater power, greater wealth, greater effectiveness, greater creativity. So really to transform the sector, to think about what models of innovation might support new practice, new business, new opportunities, new growth. So that's who I am. I'm an academic at Northumbria University, and I'm delighted to be talking to you today. So why do businesses come knocking on our door? Well, you know, there are loads of reasons. You know, maybe it's because they're stuck. Maybe it's because they're coming across a new challenge or a new opportunity that they're not really sure about how to explore. Maybe they're smart and they figure that there's something that they don't know, or a new way of doing things. Maybe they're interested in becoming more creative or more innovative. Maybe they want an impartial voice or to validate a position that they're thinking about investing in. Maybe actually they're just interested in vitalization, you know, bringing energy to some of the challenges that they've been wrestling with. Maybe they come to us because they want to recruit talent, or that they need more resource to think through an issue. There are loads and loads of reasons why people come knocking on our door, and there are loads and loads of different business challenges. You know, some of those business challenges, uncertainty about the future, how you monitor business performance, how you respond to regulation and compliance, competencies, what competencies and talent do you need within your business today and for the future that you envisage? What new technologies should you embrace? And what does technologies mean for your business situation, for the sector, for your market? What do you do with the exploding data that we have access to? How do you effectively use big data? What does customer service really mean, and what do customers expect? How do you maintain your reputation? How do you strengthen your brand? And when do you know when to embrace change? So for us, those challenges that organizations come with and the motivations for why they knock on our door really just brings us to the basics of, you know, when do you innovate? What do you innovate? Why do you innovate? How do you develop an innovation strategy? How do you establish innovation capability and a supporting culture within your organization? How do you transform as an organization to be more adequately able to respond to all of the challenges facing your sector, your business, society? So that takes us to another polling question, and I'll hand over to Sandra to open that up. But what do you feel is the top business challenge within your organisation?
Okay, voting is open. This one's a bit of a tough one. We'll be closing the voting very soon. If you want to vote, please vote now. And we're closing it now.
That's great. So we've got some really interesting results there about, you know, the most popular one clearly about uncertainty about the future. But actually all of these issues are recognised. And you know what? So many of them are intertwined. Yes, we can take them as isolated issues, but really when we dig into them, we probably find that, that there's an awful lot of connectivity there. So let me just return to my slides. Okay, so what does organisational transformation mean? And what I want to do here is I want to highlight a piece of work that the design research department at Phillips did. It's a few years old now, and in the handout there's some links to the papers that they produced. They've written about a framework that describes different economic paradigms, and they describe 4 of them: the industrial economy, the experience economy, the knowledge economy, and the transformation economy. And they plot those along a timeline. So they say that, you know, between the 1950s and the 1980s, predominantly the economy was an industrial economy. It was about modernizing one's life. It was about product function. It was about commodity. It was about persuading people to purchase, and, you know, the goal was profit. And how, when that shifts from the 1980s to when the paper was written, that we were in the experience economy, that really we were about exploring lifestyle identities. We were trying to focus on brand experiences. It was a product-service mix, targeted experiences, and that the goal was growth. And then they describe the knowledge economy, which is, you know, much more contextual. It's about individual empowerment, creativity. It's about enabling open tools, self-development, the ability to participate, and the business goal was development. And they describe that as unfolding currently. And then they position the transformation economy as a future, something that we might transition toward, which is systemic. It addresses collective issues. It's about a meaningful contribution. How we develop inclusive value networks, ethical value exchange, and that the goal is transformation, not just individually, but as societies. Now, you know, they present a sort of a linear transition here through time, but what they're really saying is that actually all of these things are happening simultaneously. So rather than thinking of a linear progression from industrial to experience to knowledge and transformation, think of it more like a graphic equalizer, where some businesses will have their industrial priorities set to high, or their experience and transformation down at low. You know, all sorts of different organizations have these preferences set differently, but it changes the nature of the organization. It changes what they prioritize. It changes how value is seen, and what kind of value they're trying to generate as an organization. And this is a particularly useful framework when we think about sustainability as well. You know, how do we understand sustainability when we consider the industrial economy or the experience economy, or even all the way through to the transformation economy, what does sustainability mean within those areas? I'd love to see one of these frameworks developed to this level of detail with sustainability taken as a specific topic. So, maybe that's some work to be done. But another thing that this framework highlights is that what constitute value changes. And the way that responsibility and how an organization is viewed changes, and we need to constantly reassess those things, and the way that we act and what we shoot for should change and should develop. And it brings me back to this question: what is the business? What is business for? What is this business for? What are we trying to achieve? And I think one of the things that that design does is it's really happy to ask these broad questions, these macro level questions, and then really quickly shift down to the micro detail of, okay, well, if we take this point of view, what does that mean for us today? What does that mean in the next year? How do we transition? So what does organizational transformation mean? Well, I think it means changing the premise within which businesses function, and also changing the value that they deliver. And what design thinking does is it firmly focuses on value, and when we shift the kind of value that we're aiming for, then we shift the purpose of design thinking, and we can shift the purpose of the role that design thinking plays within organizations. So, another poll question. What value economy does your business operate in? Now, this is a really hard question, but have a go at voting anyway.
It is a really tough one, Nick. Do you want to maybe explain a little bit more in terms of what the value economy is?
Yeah, so really it's it's what's being aimed at, and if we take the industrial economy, the basic value proposition is about pride of ownership. It's about commodities, it's about functional benefit. The kind of research that people would do there is about human factors, ergonomics, anthropometrics, how we make products physically work better with people, how we manufacture more reliably, more effectively, and what causes the decline of that position? Well, really, it's commoditization, cheap competition, eroding margins. There's only one who can be the cheapest. So that forces business to try to offer something different. How do they differentiate themselves? So actually, and as technology emerges, we're able to offer integrated products and services, and we're able to offer brand promise. So, not only do we want something functional, but we want the story behind it. We want the promise of, high quality reliability. We want the promise that if something goes wrong, you'll be there for me, that there's a great support network, behind this. So there's an awful lot of detail to go into that, but it's helpful in just thinking about where you sit and and what it means for value.
Great, thanks. So I'm going to close the poll now. Okay, we're done with voting, and here is the results.
So, unsurprisingly, there's a pretty good mix. The question I would put to anyone listening is, what does sustainability mean in each of those different economies, and what value does it offer? So, I'm conscious that we're running out of time here. So I'm gonna speed up a little bit. I position a lot of what we do as responsible innovation, and for me that situates sustainability. The question that I ask, or that design asks, is what is better? What are we going to do? So so this slide, for those of you who recognize it, is from the story The Lorax from Dr. Seuss. It tells of the Onceler who came to a fertile land and started chopping down the truffle trees to make his thneed. And a thneed is a thing that everyone needs. And he grew his business. He made it bigger and bigger and bigger. His family came along and his friends, and he employed them, and he grew his factory. Have a look at the story. It's a good lesson for us all. But it always pulls us back to the question: well, what are we doing this for? What is business for? What are all of our efforts for? What do we want? And what do we need? What does society need? And how broadly do we position our realm of care? Are we caring for our shareholders? Are we caring for our employees? Are we caring for the communities that we serve? Are we caring for society in general and looking to tackle some of the big issues that we face? These are important questions, and design thinking can play a role in that. Apple ran a series of adverts called Mac versus PC. It really epitomized the difference in attitude between efficiency and creative connectivity. I think it's quite a good illustration for how we think about design. A lot of people, when they talk to me about design thinking, think that there might be specific tools and methods that designers have, or that design thinking uses, and there might be. Most of them are open source, and it's the attitude, it's the way that we use those things. So for me, design thinking is an approach to business growth or social improvement. It addresses ambiguous problems through continuous learning by moving rapidly towards the thing to do, by exploring solutions and their consequences with people. And if you put in design thinking, you'll see lots of performance diagrams, and it's not an equation or a performance, it's a project. There's a broad goal or a challenge, and there's an approach and a set of principles to moving forwards. And some of those principles are about working in a connected way meaningfully, materializing ideas quickly and sharing them, exposing weaknesses so that you can move on, learning what to do and exploring how to do it. It's a mechanism for learning. Employing design thinking, design-led innovation within your business is about learning what's good to do, learning how to move towards the goal or solve a big, ambiguous, difficult, challenging issue. So for me, that means that there are lots of different actions that design thinking takes. It is about being connected to people, a network of people, so that you can get a meaningful understanding of the variety of perspectives on a problem. So focusing on rich fragments of human data, human value, forming positions really quickly. How could we think about this? How can we situate the problem, the issue? And materializing, I guess this is the design bit, making it really real. creating compelling narratives with imagery and video and stories so that everyone can engage with the topic in a way that drives it forward. So design thinking isn't all about designers. It's multidisciplinary. It needs lots of different perspectives. But what designers bring to it is a way of bringing to life a swamp of data, if you like. Their ability to translate rapidly complex data into something tangible, a testable story, an image, a model, a prototype, so that we can share it and evaluate it. So here's another polling question. Would you be interested in applying design thinking to some of the challenges within your organization?
Okay, I think we'll close it now.
Okay, so overwhelmingly yes, which is terrific. Why is design a strategic asset? Well, it doesn't have to be, but it can be. Right up at the start of this talk, I said, design what? That's a really difficult question. And it's a difficult question because it makes a difference who's asking the question. An organization on its own, they can say, I want to redesign the business model. I'm going to redesign the organization. I'd like to redesign some of our strategy. Or they could say, I'd like to redesign a policy or a program or a product or a service. And design is a strategic asset when it is able to and allowed to question the fundamentals. Now, when you want to get really meaningful, those fundamentals are located within communities and within society. If you want to get really meaningful, then actually what we have to be able to do is to connect up government, policymakers, private sector, NGOs, communities of people, and by creating these value networks, these communities of purpose, we're able to envisage futures that maybe do challenge business models, but also hold the opportunity for driving forward some of society in a way that really makes a difference to the complex challenges that we face. So, design is a strategic asset because it can bring things to life. It can make real futures that are just sort of sensed at the moment. It can help us make sensible, responsible decisions because it can present the alternatives. It can bring to life consequences that maybe aren't envisaged by everyone. So, how does it do that? Well, it's not afraid to ask questions, to ask the big what if and why not questions, and to bring the answers to life. This is 1,000 words. The saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's what designers bring to this, or creatives more general. They're able to take incredibly complex, big data sets and bring them to life in a film, to bring them to life in a powerful image, an image that can then be debated and discussed and can drive policy and decision making. That's really powerful, and actually being part of that debate and including people within that is a role of connecting and facilitating. And often that's what these big challenges need. When you have so many diverse groups, so many different perspectives on a topic, how do you compel people to act compel them to act together? How do you present something that's captivating enough for for groups of people to pool their resources and to move forward together. Well, you know, design can do that. The power of the post-it note. I once heard somebody talking about designers and design thinking, saying, "Oh yeah, they're the guys who just work on post-it notes," and his remark was pointing, you know, sort of saying, you know, they're a little bit frivolous. You know, they don't even make proper reports and notes. They just work on little post-it notes. So this is a bit of a joke for me, but what it signifies is articulation. The ability at any point in time to articulate really clearly and concisely, what do we know? What is the challenge? What are the solutions? What are our insights? What are we going to do? And to say that very clearly in a short, concise way, because then people can engage with it. You know, then we can share it. Then we can move on. Yes, we need the detail. We need the detail to back that up. But at any point in time, you should be able to force yourself to write down what you need to do on a post-it note. And design thinking is shifting. You know, it is solution focused, and those solutions used to be about form and detail, about products and visualization, about aesthetics. It has, over the last 30, 40 years, located itself much more firmly within organizational leadership to drive strategy, to drive the rationale behind business operations. You know, and more recently, it's being used to drive policy as well. The UK government has Policy Lab. Dr. Andrea Sidmock, an ex-colleague of mine, runs the Policy Lab. They're in British government. They're using design thinking to design policies, and you know, it's about finding new ways to do things. You know, better is always new. New isn't always better, but aiming for betterment by exploring new ways of doing things might help get us there. What has this got to do with sustainability? It's got everything to do with sustainability. You know, if we're really thinking about responsible innovation, if we're really thinking about society betterment, then of course it means sustainability. Of course it means how we use resources, how we expend energy. It also is about how we behave, how we consume, how we treat each other as people and societies. You know, again, let's draw it back to those 4 different forms of economy. You know, where does sustainability sit, and what does sustainability really look like if you're talking about a knowledge or a transformation economy? Thank you very much for listening to the talk today. We'll now have a brief discussion and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Nick. That was incredibly insightful, and we really, really appreciate your effort and the time that you've taken to prepare and to join us today. We have quite a few questions, so if I'm just aware of the time and we don't want to eat into other people's time, so what we're going to do is combine the panel discussion with the Q&A. So what I'm going to do right now is kick that off, and I'll start with a question, if I may, Nick. The questions are all to you. So first question is, and if we can keep it really short just because we've literally got 6 minutes.
Sure.
How easy is it to use the paradigm change framework?
So firstly, sorry for talking so much and biting into the discussion and questions. On the handout that I've provided, there's a link to the Phillips and design research paper, so that you can have a look at the framework in detail. They provide all sorts of information against the sort of the business mindset and the people mindset. By taking all of those qualities together, it's quite easy to use actually as a reflective tool to think about your own organisation and your own professional practice, and I'd urge people to have a go at that.
Thank you. Second, they're coming in thick and fast now. We have a question here about how does using this framework help to convert a sustainability strategy to a sustainability policy?
Wow, good question. That for me, often it's about buy-in, and it's about the level at which you can get buy-in. So part of that is about reach and ability to persuade. So design thinking is quite useful in its ability to persuade, because it is really able to bring things to life, to tell stories in new and different ways. So when you've only got a couple of minutes to get the message across, you need to think about how you can do that very powerfully. And design's been doing that for years. People don't often have the time or resources to go into all the detail. They need to know whether they buy the premise first. So design thinking can be really useful to do that, and the framework itself can be helpful in positioning the argument. So personally, the way that I would do things is I would use the framework to build your argument, and then I would use forms of design thinking, design articulation to create compelling narratives and stories to get buy-in at the highest level you can. If you do that, then you can shift from a program to a strategy to a policy. There's another interesting framework called the quadruple helix, and that talks about how innovation, if you can bring together government, business, academia, and the public to innovate together around collective issues, then that's incredibly powerful. And that then gives you the ability to demonstrate how something, the value of converting something into a policy, because you often need to have that evidence before it will be converted to policy.
Thank you, Nick. They're still coming thick and fast. Another question from our audience is, what does the process of design thinking look like? How would you guide someone through the process?
Yeah, I'd tell them to hold on to their hat and to and to open their heart and give it a go. What does it look like? I'll describe one way that it can look, but it can look all sorts of different ways, and that's why I mean. And when I said earlier that it's a project, not a process or an equation, and that's because it will transform and change. It will adapt depending upon the conditions and the problem and the solutions that are being generated. But we have a thing called it's quite common practice. Google have their own version, but a 5-day design sprint. And and each of those different days represent a different step in the design process. So, the first day can be about uncovering everything that you know, all the different perspectives, all the different resources you have at your disposal, really unpacking and unpicking how an issue and problem is seen from a multitude of different perspectives and stakeholder points of view. Day 2 can be about creating ideas, dozens and dozens of responses, and ideas aren't that hard, but on their own they're also not necessarily that powerful. So after day 2, when you've created hundreds and hundreds of ideas, day 3 can be about collating ideas to create compelling concepts, and defining the value proposition that they really speak to. And then that's great, you've got a heart of a value proposition wrapped around with clever novel ideas that respond to the issue that you've unpacked and unpicked. So then maybe it's about embedding that value proposition with a business proposition and a business model, and using business canvas modeling to do that. So that's some of the detail and some of the framework and basics. Then how do you pitch that? How do you create that compelling narrative that describes this proposal? And who are you going to pitch that to? To the public, to your leadership team, to your colleagues? So maybe you need a few different pitches. And then get out and pitch it. Get some feedback and use that feedback to reflect on the ideas that you've got and the propositions that you've put forward. So very quickly, you can do that in 5 days. And that can take you through a design process. But what it actually looks and feels like will change every single time.
Thank you, Nick. Another question, is there any relationship between the business case and design thinking?
Yeah, absolutely there is. I don't think you can do effective design thinking without a business case, without a business model. You need to be. People often say, that design's far too important to be left to designers alone. Okay, designers can play a vital and important role within design and design thinking, but they aren't the only disciplines. Where I work, I have material scientists, sports scientists, marketeers, corporate management trainees, industrial designers, graphic designers, politics students, psychologists. All of those different disciplines bring something to the table. So, it's vital that actually business is integrated into design thinking. You have to be able to locate the value proposition within a business model and a business proposition. Otherwise, it's not persuasive.
Thank you. We have a couple of more questions, I'm afraid, so we've overrun a little bit. I hope everybody's okay with that, and that, Nick, you're okay with that too. We're sorry to eat into your time. The penultimate question, is design thinking useful for all areas? Are there any tools, recommendations when you're getting started with design thinking?
There are lots of different approaches. If you have a very tightly specified problem, there's probably better ways about going to find a solution to that problem than using design thinking. If you have a very focused financial question, do you know what? I would apply accounts and accounting. But if you have a really nebulous challenge, if you have a challenge that is about connecting people and conflicting priorities, then design thinking can really play a role. In a way, design thinking is a sense-making tool, a sense-making and envisaging tool. Let's make sense of everything we can understand and envisage what that might mean and what better might mean, what better looks like. And, design thinking won't solve every problem, and there are lots of problems that there are just more effective ways of going about things. Design thinking can be quite time-consuming, quite resource-consuming. It needs to engage people. It can be quite hard. Save it for the really difficult, ambiguous, thorny challenges.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, sustainability is framed by the type of economy that we live in, is something that you said, I paraphrase, during your slides and presentation. What does that mean for the majority of people on Earth?
Wow. Different things. The majority of the people on Earth, I don't know, but let me tell you what sustainability looks like in my life, and I suspect that's fairly common within Western society. At home, what does sustainability mean? It means turning the lights off upstairs when you're just downstairs. It means sorting and putting out your recycling. it means having a toilet that has a multi-flush function. It's pretty basic functional stuff. You know, and actually, for me, that really situates within the industrial economy. It's such basics. You know, at the office, what does sustainability mean? It means putting paper in the right bin. It means printing out in black and white if I don't need it in colour. It means distributing things digitally, not just printing out copies and handing it out. You know, so much of that is just about the functionality of how I operate a home or how I operate an office. And actually, I don't think it goes anywhere near far enough. And this is the point. You know, whose problem is sustainability? You know, what can I do as an individual in my life is limited. It's limited to the infrastructure that I reside within. You know, I can change my own habits, my own behaviors, as far as the architecture and infrastructure allows me. But actually, you know, maybe we need to be designing buildings differently. Maybe we need to be designing work differently. And that's a very different question. So, you know, what sustainability means for most people isn't enough. And actually, you know, what we need is more leaders within sustainability that can connect broadly to government and business agendas so that we can change the very policies and infrastructure within which all of our behaviors and habits reside. And I think if we were able to do that, then maybe we're able to make some quite significant impacts.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you so much. I mean, we have some more questions, but I'm not sure we have the time. Maybe what we can do is share it through the handouts, so there's information there for more details. We're also going to be posting this webinar on our YouTube channel, so people can actually listen to it if they were unable to attend the whole session. So do let us know if you're having any problem accessing the handouts. Nick, did you want to say anything else in closing?
I guess I just wanted to say, you know, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you all today. I had a lot I wanted to say, and I was taking too long to do it, so I'm sorry I cut into the question time. But I'm excited about what we can do together, and we've got a pilot that we're proposing to be running around sustainability in the UAE, and I'd like to bring together, you know, a really powerful network of people who can look to figure out what sustainability means within the transformation economy within the UEA, and how we can inform policy and strategy to make a real difference. So, you know, maybe some of you will be able to join me.
Thank you. Yes, Nick. So yeah, we're very happy to announce and share with you that we are planning a pilot workshop between Sustainability to Action and Northumbria University on transforming business with design thinking in Q4 of this year. If you are interested in sponsoring, or if you're interested in participating, please do drop us an email on info@sustainabilitytoaction.com, and we'd be very happy to take it forward with you. Just a quick heads up, our next webinar is also planned for Q4, and it's going to be about accounting for natural capital. If you want to register in advance, again, same email, drop us an email on info@sustainabilitytoaction.com. We would like to thank our speaker very much for his time and all the preparation and the knowledge that he shared with us. Thank you, Nick. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully in Abu Dhabi very, very soon. We thank our audience and our attendees for your patience and for your attention, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar. Do follow us on social media, and you will find on our YouTube channel. You'll find this as a vlog, along with earlier webinars and many other very interesting videos, I assure you. Thank you very much. We'll see you very soon again.